Right, are we going? Yes, we are now going. Ah, man, I've only just done patch note video, like, was that like 4 days ago now or something? But anyway, I'm back for a second patch notes video, and this is not going to be the last one. There will be at least 2 more of these before we're finally at a stable sort of point and balance. A lot of the changes made in 5.0 were very experimental, there wasn't enough feedback, and actually it didn't look so good, and there were a lot of weapons that got ignored that really needed something done. Most of them were underpowered weapons that we're getting buffed today. The overpowered weapon nerfs are next, which I'll have to talk about in the second part of rebalance. And then we need to address crew, because there's a few crew types that are just really bad now, like crystals are not looking so hot, and neither are cultists, so we'll be back here again a few times before we're settled, but yes, hello and welcome. We're playing technically not Multiverse anymore, this is 5.0 RB2, so it's not even the main version of Multiverse anymore. And if you want to play with the add-on, it should be available now. Should be in the add-ons announcement as soon as Kix notices it's there. Because he needs to add it to the Multiverse download page. It'll just take me a minute to get set up here. Right, so I'm going to start with what we've got from the DLC blueprints, because there's only a couple of items in DLC blueprints, most of them well balanced. Let's get a look at this. The first weapon we need is let's go load up blueprints and we'll have a look, because I have it isolated to make it easy to find all of the stuff that we're looking at today. Right, so to begin, we have Chain Vulcan. So, probably the most annoying part of Chain Vulcan in Multiverse. It has a really wide radius. And it's so wide, in fact, you can't really aim it at anything. It's only useful for breaking shields, and I don't like that. I liked it in vanilla. Well, just sort of beating the crap out of the enemy ship with, and that means it needs a bit of a change. So we have the new version of Chain Vulcan. It is far more accurate now. It still has radius, so it's halfway between vanilla and Multiverse, but what we have is a nice halved radius. So instead of 60 it's now 30, and the mass in terms of crew, so we have a bunch of MFK aces. This is just a testing ship, so it has all of its stuff ready. And it has the most slots. I wasn't going to add a new ship today just to get a 4th drone slot. I think that would be a bit excessive, so we have Big Chonker with better crew so they don't fall over. And to demonstrate the new Vulcan, we're going to be shooting a lot of test mantises today. So the new Vulcan, as you'll notice, the radius is now small enough to fit inside of a 2x2 room, which was the goal. If you aim at tiny rooms, it's still inaccurate, but if you aim at reasonably sized rooms, it's now accurate enough to actually hit them consistently. It's also a minuscule bit faster on rate of fire. It's closer to its power level than vanilla, and that's because of the shield changes in Multiverse, and you have more shields. So shields recharge quicker, and it means that currently you can reach a point where Chain Vulcan can't break shields on its own, which is a little upsetting. So now Vulcan, it doesn't sort of have a brain fart when you find ships with massive shields. It will destroy the shields and the ship under it if given enough time, which is where I would feel it really belongs. So yeah, it's Chain Vulcan. That's our first item on the list. And yeah. Next on the list we have a weapon from Vanilla that actually, I don't think it's been changed at all. So we get Ion Chain Gun up. It, for some reason, didn't get the name change all of the other adaptive weapons got. It was still called Chain Ion, which was a bit inconsistent. So it's now called Adaptive Ion, and its charge time, like most Ion weapons with this balance patch, is much better. But it needed more than just the default buff. Because its charge time was still the same as Vanilla at 12.5, it's now 10.5. So it will get going a lot quicker, and it's a lot stronger once it gets going. So we'll load up another test Mantis. And have a look at how long it takes to get going. So the first shot is still a bit defective. It's a good thing it missed. That's a quirk that I don't know if it's from hyperspace or what, but the first shot doesn't do any damage for some reason. Or at least it doesn't register that it's going to do damage. The second shot is 2 damage, and it scales the same way, it's just it's quicker. So by the time it's on its third shot, it's self-chaining if you're using it to take shields down. And at 4 shots, it's a really, really strong ion weapon. It has similar scaling to a Vulcan weapon in terms of how long it takes to get going and the power it produces. And it should still do more ion damage, more importantly, than the chain energy, which is another inconsistency it had. So it is now better at doing ion damage than an energy gun, which was definitely something that needed change. And yeah, we have 4 ion damage now, so this can chain. If you have training, it can chain over 3 systems. Without training, it chains over 2. So this can very easily be used as a way of getting crew kills with ion damage, if you like pain. Of course, that will require you to break something like piloting, but it's feasible. But it's not damage, so we'll get the Vulcan out to actually remove the Mantis. Well, I would say this is a pretty interesting combo. If you're looking for a true Vulcan build, this is how you do it. Use a Vulcan that hull. Use the ion to get rid of shields permanently. I also have no idea why Leah is apparently jumping away. That's I'm going to blame a little bit of hyperspace for that one. I have no idea why Leah is in the hangar, but she can leave the hangar. Like, absolutely. Right, next on the list we have a weapon change that is very simple and easy to demonstrate. So it is pre-flak. Hold on. Before we crash the game, let's get rid of the crash laser. There we go, pre-flak. The weapon itself has not been changed, but the way it works has changed. So all flak weapons have fake projectiles. It's a way to counteract defense runs shooting them. It's how flak deals with this sort of weakness. And basically what I've done is I've buffed its fake projectile count a lot. So it will look a lot more menacing now. If I load it properly, we can see it produces a nice cloud of flak that looks really menacing. Evil. But that's all it does. The change is very simple. It's still pre-flak. I haven't buffed it. In terms of damage output, it's just the number of fake projectiles it has is a lot higher. So defense drones are not going to be shooting down the pre-flak's projectiles anymore. It's no longer a thing. As for the exact number of fake projectiles it has, I believe it has 40. So the likelihood of a defense drone hitting its damaging projectiles is basically 0 now. So it'll do its job of getting rid of Zoltan shields just as well as pre-ion. Or if you hit through, it will do regular damage instead of ion. That's the difference between them now. Which I think makes them a little more balanced. They now do the same thing, just in a different type of damage. But if that's not good enough, and we want something that gets rid of drones, we have a brand new weapon. So if you like the idea of using a weapon to destroy drones intentionally, may I introduce you to the Sweeper. It's a weapon that's not a weapon. I'll explain how with the test bomber. This thing's not designed to hit the ship, it's designed to get rid of the drones. It produces a big cloud of flak that pretty much never hits anything. And its accuracy rating is so low, it probably won't be hitting shields at all. I'd be surprised if we see any actual damage coming off of it. For its actual value, it has an accuracy rating of -50, and it's so wide it probably won't ever hit the enemy. But it will collide with drones and get rid of them, along with projectiles. And as we see here, it does occasionally hit something. And if it does hit something, it will do a tiny amount of damage. But it doesn't do much damage. I would say this is comparable to Nephthys, but with more utility, I guess. But less damage. And that's all the Sweeper does. It looks scary, but it's not scary. It's completely harmless. Yeah. Guess we'll sweep some more. I guess this is sort of the meme gun everyone was asking for as well. The always miss gun. I guess this is pretty much always miss. But that's DLC blueprints. There's like nothing in here now. Because DLC blueprints are small, as there aren't very many weapons that have to get put in here. And now we get to talk about hull lasers. Oh, they must all be numered. Well, so we'll get hull 1. We'll get ourselves a hull 2. We'll get ourselves a hull 3. And I'll need to double check the idea of chain hull before I put that in wrong. So there we go, we have a selection of hull weapons, and the changes here are subtle, but they are noticeable. So for hull 1, we've increased its breach chance a lot. Hull weapons in general now have an archetype of breaching things. They are, after all, meant to blow holes in the enemy hull, so we represent that with breach chance as the way of buffing them. The higher level chain hulls also don't get much slower. So anti-hull 3 isn't a snail of a gun now. It's reasonably fast, and its breach chance is reasonable. You probably get a breach with every volley now. Meanwhile, the chain anti-hull laser goes down to a max fire rate of once every 6 seconds now instead of 7.5, so it will shoot a lot faster, and it will definitely be worth using now, especially given that it has 2 projectiles per shot. So this thing is a viable alternative to the heavy chain. It is, however, a lot slower to get going, so beware of that. It's a Vulcan style gun, and not your typical chain to get a little faster sort of deal. And with enough of these, I reckon you could get pretty spicy. Anyway, I'll load a slightly stronger Mantis. We'll charge some hull lasers up and have a go. And the basic idea with these hull changes is just to give them something useful to differentiate them from heavy lasers that only hit empty rooms. Now they're actually useful for hitting systemed rooms as well, because you can breach them to stop the enemy ship fixing them. But the breaches, they're not guaranteed, but I also don't rely on them. in a pinch, because you might be disappointed. And the chain particularly, it's still not huge breach odds. But yeah, a couple of breaches. They fire a bit quicker, so they're not annoying now. And you can still use them as hull rushing weapons if you so desire. Especially with the chain hull and its new change. It's actually quite fast now. It's almost fast enough to suppress shields. I believe with 2 reloaders it will function like a real Vulcan as well. It'll get down to around sort of 1-ish Vulcan with 2 or 3 of them. With 3 of them definitely, but 2 of them should function as a Vulcan and keep shields off. Or you could just get 2 reloaders and it will keep very low shield ships suppressed. So yeah, that's the function of all these. They obviously are hull weapons, shoot them at hulls, the enemy ship gets very upset. It doesn't last very long. So next on the list we have a set of weapons that... well, I don't know, nobody really likes charge lasers. They're really clunky big guns that don't really offer anything. They're just as slow as a big laser, but they have less projectiles and don't seem to do anything unique, so it often begs the question of what is the point of a charge gun? Well, there are 2 ways to go. You either could make them bigger, or you could make them charge faster, and I chose to make them charge faster. So if we sell our hull weapons and get a look at the charge chain gun. The wide boy. Charge gun 3. It's the wide boy. It's still 4 power, but it will charge up much quicker now. It's nearly 18 seconds for 5 shots, so it's very similar in stats to the burst lasers. It is still power inefficient, and I still would recommend just getting a burst 5. For comparison, bring up, it's called burst 3, but it has around the same stats but for 1 less power. So you're basically paying a power point to get that charge functionality for all it's worth, which most of the time it's not worth so much, but it's a weapon. And if you insist on using it, it's not going to drag you down anymore. So yeah, charging laser. It exists now, and we're going to shoot a mantis with it. We got a strong boy this time. Oh look, they have some of our buffed weapons. Which is also a point as well. This balance patch isn't just for you. The enemy's weapons that are trash are also now less trash. So these chain ions, less of a joke now. I definitely consider this ship to be quite dangerous. Just a bit. Just a little bit. Also, I've just noticed this ship has 4 engines. That's, and this is a ship that does spawn. Is this a bug report moment? It seems. This ship should not have so many engines. Anyway, let's get this out of here before it actually does damage. We'll tidy up again. Who needs healing? Get over there. Get over here, my dude, and we can get going again. So next on our list is Sniper. This is the biggest change, probably, for a weapon. With the weapon ID of Sniper, because simplicity is actually good sometimes, have you know. The Sniper is no longer designed to break hulls quickly, which is quite a change. It is now modelled on a burst assault rifle sniper, so it has multiple shots, and it still goes through shields, but its purpose is to kill crew by causing lots of breaches and damaging systems. So it is a support weapon and not just a weapon that instantly wins your run by doing stupid amounts of damage to the enemy hull. And the way we do this, because you obviously can't just give a weapon multiple breaches, we gave it multiple projectiles, so that's what I mean by a burst. It's now a burst of 3. And it will very quickly pepper the enemy. So you can deox them a good couple of volleys, one on, say, weapons, one on shields, one on oxygen. The enemy ship is gone most of the time. It's delightfully simple, and it's not weak either. It's pretty strong. I do like it. It's changed form, and this is the weapon that we'll be using today for 4 of a kind in the second half of the stream. So yeah, that's done. I'm not going to actually show particle weapons because they haven't changed per se. They're the same as they were in 4.11. They have no actual changes. They've just been reverted to their old versions. I don't understand what the particle nerfs are about. Never been an explanation as to why, so if thoughts and feelings are all that were behind it and everyone hates it, it's time to go back, so that's what we did. We went back to 4.11. And yeah, it's done now. As for weapons that did need actual buffs, I'm going to demonstrate that we have buffed the entire ion range. So Ion 1, Ion 2, Ion 3, Ion 4. The heavy ion has also been changed, which I'll need to find the name of in the blueprints. One moment, please. We'll go down to the ions category. We have ourselves an Ion Heavy. We also have ourselves a Tri-Ion, which now functions very differently. It functions as a real flak gun now. And finally, we have the vanilla, but not vanilla, Ion Charger Mark II. So Ion Charge Gun 2, which is a multiverse thing that you find from a rebel scout in a rebel sector, hiding in an asteroid field, in case you're wondering where to find one. So if we load something that doesn't like getting peppered with annoying ion weapons, that would of course be a Zoltan. They're not a huge fan. They also like to use illegal drones, which I've noticed is a thing. I don't know why these still hang around, but whatever. So simple ion, it's a simple fire rate change. Ion 1, a simple fire rate change. Ion 2, same deal. These are all just better, they're more better. But the Ion 3 is probably the biggest change out of your default ion range. It uses 1 less power per shot now. So if we spread these out a little, we should be able to upset the Zoltans fairly quickly. And as you can see, ion weapons, even without reloaders now, they should be consistently chaining between themselves. And if you have lots of ion weapons, the enemy is going to experience actual pain. They're not going to be able to do very much. You won't get that funny achievement. You scatter them out well. So yeah, let's just speed this up a little because we don't want to be here all day waiting on some deox, so enjoy the sound of ion roasting some Zoltans. Absolutely delicious. and back to normality. So ion weapons are still very, very slow. They just do their job better. Basically, consider these weapons having an inbuilt reloader, because that's what the change was based on for all the regulars. Now we got onto the funky, fancier ions. We have ourselves the unique ions, there are 3 of them. So the wide boy now charges quicker. It's not as fast as the ion 3, but it's also faster than the ion 2, so it's halfway between them, and in exchange, it has charging function. So if you like a charge gun, it's actually fairly good. The heavy ion is now a very accurate weapon. You can find out more about this by hovering over it. So you'll see accuracy modifier of 15. What this means is most of the time it won't be missing at all. Against ships very late in the game, you will need to supplement it with something to slow them down. But by then, you normally have an engine disabler or hacking or some other way to harass the enemy ship and help this thing to chain. In case enemies roll this though, I have also made it too long to self-chain on its own. So unless enemies roll multiple ion weapons, this thing will not absolutely destroy your shields. So praise with that. The one weapon you will need to be aware of is Tryon. This is a flak, and it functions like a flak. It shoots really quickly and is actually really dangerous now. I do fear this is a little overtuned now, but it is what it is. It's a flak gun. It has fake projectiles like every other flak gun. So if we load ourselves a reasonably sized Assault Bomber, throw ourselves at some Tryon, you'll notice that it's quite a big glob now. And if you get a look at this, it has fake projectiles mixed in, and it makes a satisfying sound smacking shields, and it shoots really quickly. In total, it has 3 clusters, so it has a triple cluster. It has 1 real cluster and 2 fake clusters, so it's a Tryon now. The heavy ion is just more reliable. The charge is a little more economical. So with that ion weapon barrage, it'll be quite easy to break these enemy ships down. We'll give these dudes a bad time. But I'm not waiting here again, for obvious reasons. Ion weapons too slow. Killing you. Hopefully you get the idea. A nice meaty sound behind the Tryon now. I think it's probably my favourite change out of this lot. So it no longer feels weak. And then we get down to the last of the ion, because the ion category is quite large. So if we open up ion, here's disco. This is the special version of the phaser, the disco phaser. It's found on the pleasure ships, and it has a rainbow colour when it fires, but it's now unique. It has 10 shield pierce, so it's now a very unique weapon. It's a phaser that always phases if it hits the enemy ship. As for phasers in general, they now pierce 3 shields, so they should be reliable for phasing for longer. The rate of fire, however, has not been touched. So they're not gonna just suddenly break the game. You just have to deal with these the way they were. And while we're here, since I have 4 weapon slots, we'll take out a missile as well. This is a very small change. So this is the basic missile launcher that you get straight out of the gate. It now has parity, one of the main changes of this update. Every single missile will have accuracy, unless otherwise specified by the missile. It's the only 2 missile launchers in the whole game now with no accuracy out of the regular lot. So, you know, Carnage obviously doesn't, because there's no enemy version of it. But out of all the normal weapons, we have Leto now, it's normal. And then for the exceptions, we have the Nightshade, which is the Free Mantis missile, and Obsidian, so the only 2 that don't have accuracy now. Everything else does, including Leto. So he's no longer left out of the party. It's still terrible, but if you pick that missile at the start of the game, it's not as terrible as it was before. So we'll load ourselves, again, the Zoltan Bomber, I guess. We'll upset some Zoltans with phasers this time. We'll get these going. They don't pierce Zoltan shields, that is probably their greatest inconsistency. I'd say. Even if they can pierce a Zoltan shield, they can't. Like from an amount of pierce perspective. Then we have Leto, so that's accuracy, so against this ship we have Prelude piloting, Prelude engines, so that's 10, and 3 engines, so this is 25, and for Leto it's only 15 dodge. That's how accuracy works. We'll use it to break piloting, which is probably the main use for this little thing. A single shot at the start of the encounter to break the enemy piloting system is probably what I'd recommend this for. As for phasers, they're still quite niche. I wouldn't recommend these over other ion weapons, unless you're very desperate to get ion going for a low power budget. Which I guess these... it can do. Phaser 2 is better than Phaser 1 for this purpose, just because it doesn't take terribly long to get going. And with reloaders, it will continue to self-chain after you break the shield, which is something that the phasers can't do, which could be quite a problem. But anyway, we're not here to watch more ion. We've seen enough ion for one day. Let's get these packaged away. And we'll get ourselves moving down to the beams category. So for beams, we have ourselves some pretty normal looking beams. And by that I mean Halberd is, well, its vanilla version. It's no different anymore. The solution to Halberd balance was to return to basics. It's a 17-second 2 damage beam, and that's it. It's just normal. There's no big scary surprise that Halberd is now a weird slow beam with some random hull breaching nonsense going on. It's just the vanilla version. It has 10% breach because all beams seem to need breach, so that's what it does. The most important changes to beams are the other two. So if you've seen the pre-torch, you've probably worked out it's not balanced. The solution was to make it a completely different weapon. It's a 5-second wind-up, it's not instant, like all of the pre-weapons. And the way we've made this work is it's effectively a very big torch pierce. So it will not absolutely deck enemy ships at the start of combat. After a short delay, you'll get a piercing torch with 1 extra layer of shield pierce. And that's all you get from it. 1 shot, which should be enough, and it's gone. And it doesn't waste your power. And for our last thing we have a buff to a weapon that nobody uses called Partisan. In fact, if you've never heard of this weapon, it's probably because you've ignored it in the store, like everyone else. It was previously absolutely useless. It now has 2 layers of shield piercing, which should allow it to be a better crew killing gun. I recommend this against things like piloting engines, to help other weapons be accurate, but frankly there are still better options here. And its stun chance is guaranteed, its duration is long enough to chain on its own, even if you don't have anyone manning weapons. So it's 14 seconds, and if you've got skilled crew, you will eventually be able to stun multiple groups of enemies with just 1 beam, which could be very beneficial. That's the sort of thing. So, we're going to load ourselves a small Mantis bomber today for this one, because I'm not entirely convinced that we're going to be particularly good against big shields. Pre-torch now, it is just a torch P, a single shot. It's all you get, it's all you need. It creates a reasonable amount of fire, and it's gone. That's all it does. I definitely think this was the better idea for this than the idea of making it a tiny mini beam. There's not really any point reinventing the wheel. The torch P already existed, so that's what we've made preemptive. And I guess since this has rolled with big shields, we'll need a weapon that can break those shields for us. I was hoping they'd roll with wooden shields, but sadly not. And yes, hello and welcome to some patch notes. Welcome, welcome. If you want the patch notes, and the version of the game that comes with them, that is linked in the download available at the top of the stream description. And yeah, this says beam changes. So Halberd has returned to basics, it's just vanilla. Partisan is a shield piercing beam now. It's sort of like Torch P, if Torch P was a crew killing weapon from the stunning perspective. And hopefully once or if, I suppose, if Hyperspace decides to finally get around to fixing frosty lasers, we might get to see a frost version of this as well. But right now it's not possible to beam using frost. It will make the game very upset. Which is a shame. So sell these, we'll get a look at the only pinpoint that's been changed. So this is everyone's favourite meme gun. This Inquidia. Now, there are two ways you can fix this weapon. You can either make it shoot faster or do more damage. Now, Kix's idea is to make this shoot stupidly fast, which reminds me ominously of Callus, which is the reason I haven't done that. I think Callus was a learning lesson for everyone that beams that shoot stupidly fast are not fun to go up against. So we're not going to do that. Instead, we're going to make it do more damage, which makes it more useful for the player, and it produces a time limit on encounters with enemies that spawn with it. So, the way we've balanced this is using the enemy version as a buffer. The enemies will not get this balance buff. It's only the player version of Sinquida that does one more damage. So for the Mantis Bomber, you'll see we do 3 total damage. The shield sinks off 1, and we impact for 2. And it will continue to scale all the way up to 8. Now this ship isn't strong enough for 8 damage. You'd actually have to load multiple of these Mantis Bombers to eventually hit 8. And that's because we will very quickly destroy them. Maybe 6 damage shot will take them out, unfortunately. But once this thing gets going, it will completely annihilate everything. At max damage it is uncanny. So yeah, Sinquida, no longer a joke. I would recommend it as an alternative to Stiletto if you really need the shield pierce. Or just a greater damage output in general for, say, the flagship fight. It could be better than Stiletto circumstantially, if you have the defensive tools to back it up. And with that, we move on to things that are, I guess, more interesting than a basic pinpoint. And yes, the Spooky Beam is here. Spooky Beam does spooky damage. And we now have a weapon we've added to the Vulcan family with the next one. And that is the Chain Bomb. So the Chain Bomb previously, the issue with it is it was a waste of ammo, and there wasn't really any point in wasting the ammo. It wasn't amazingly strong, because it didn't chain fast enough to be a big enough difference. Now, the Chain Bomb is your solution for crew kills when you really have nothing else. This thing sprays so many explosives, it really is quite dangerous. Thankfully, the enemies have a version of this that's different and has not received the buff. The enemies are not going to be spraying an Uzi of chain exploding projectiles at you, but you can do that to them. So it's still a bit slow to get going, but it chains more aggressively. It's sort of like a Vulcan now. The first shot is still slow, the second one is noticeably quicker, and once it maxes out, it's very, very quick. It's now a Vulcan. It will chew through ammo incredibly quickly, but it will also chew through crew incredibly quickly, so that's its purpose now. If you have a stockpile of missiles and a quest that needs doing, this is your solution. The chain bomb is here to save the day. Just make sure the ammo reserve is really large, because it will use a lot of ammo. Or if you do the ancient quest line, that one augment will make this thing extremely spicy by removing its ammo cost. And that's definitely an interaction I'd recommend trying out if you ever get the opportunity, because it will be very silly. Yes, Ancient Recycler. It will make the chain bomb a Vulcan of the bomb variety, without any downside. So next up we have energy guns. There are 3 that we have changed. Technically 4, because there's 2 versions of the energy charger. So we have the Energy 3, the Energy Chain Gun, which is known simply as Chain Energy, and we have the Charge Gun, which is just Energy Charger. The only one I was not sure on was the Charger. Charge weapons in general are really hard to balance, because they have a functionality that no other weapon does, but they also have a bit of a fire rate problem, and it's hard to balance between them. The 2 options with the charging energy was to lower its energy consumption to 2, or to make it shoot quicker. I chose to make it shoot quicker. Its base rate of fire is now 5.2, so it still follows the energy rules of not being allowed to self-chain. None of these can. The one that gets the closest to self-chaining is the Energy 3. It's into the 95% range of ion power. It takes nothing to get us going. If you have manned weapons, it can break shields on its own now. And then finally, if you get to the power efficient side of things, there is the Plussy Charge Energy, which is still here. And this is now worth picking up if you find it in the Pirate Plus store. It's now a 2 power weapon, and this is the reason why I didn't want to make the power reduction, because if I make the power reduction to the base, this thing then uses 1 power, which I think is a little bit too exciting. I think we might actually break something if this uses 1 power, so that's why I went with the rate of fire buff. So instead of harassing... There's not a rock bomber. What other bombers do we get in vanilla? Zoltan... we'll just lose a Zoltan one. We'll stop harassing the Mantis for a little while. Wrestle some Zoltonis. After all, that's what energy guns are good for. They're good for breaking Zoltan shields. So the Charge Energy, its full salvo can break the Ancient Shields, the first one, in a single salvo. It does 9 total damage. And it self-chains quite easily, just like the Energy 3. Both of these are actually quite reliable. The one thing I will say about the Charger, though, that fire chance is high enough that it's kind of reliable. So you can also use this as a sort of crew-killing gun. If you let it charge up and fire at something, you'll probably set it on fire. I got unlucky, but mileage may vary. Eventually you can set things on fire if you're stubborn enough. And then the Chain Energy, I'm going to need a much bigger ship. I'm going to load an over-leveled Zoltan Bomber, because I need some really spicy ships to shoot at. Because this thing breaks shields really quickly once it maxes out. I'm going to put this at the back, in case we take damage. So the Chain Energy's base cooldown went down, its chain factor was increased. The amount of cooldown reduction you get per shot is also higher. The result is that this thing is... it's in the Vulcan family now. It does Vulcan things. And it does Vulcan things for 3 power, which I thought was fairly fitting. Because once it gets going, it decimates shields. And hull, because it's an energy weapon, it does hull damage. So this thing, if given the opportunity, I would definitely recommend picking up and using now. It's less of a meme gun, and more of a actually quite dangerous weapon. And thankfully I don't think enemies get this version, so there's no uber scary energy Vulcan floating around. Which is nice. So let's get this dude out of the way. I think we're having ourselves a vanilla moment over here with the dodge chances on this 5-engine ship. Once we iron that piloting, they'll be gone pretty quickly. We'll just blow them up. However, yeah, energy guns. Worth using now. Especially the big boys. The small ones were already good, so they didn't need any buffs. The big ones were the problem. Energy 3 is usable. The charges are still a bit questionable. I wouldn't recommend them, but you might get some value. Especially in things like the Dreadnought fights, these can be usable. I'd say definitely the plus version though, not the regular. But this thing's a good salt and shield breaker. And then the chain energy, it's just a better version of its old self, so use it like a Vulcan, and it will give you a Vulcan. Alright, next one are crystals. So this one was a bit of a pun / joke. I put the ID in wrong, but hold on. What is this? Crystal Heavy 2, it's backwards. There we go. So if you've looked at the name of this weapon, you probably asked yourself why it doesn't work like a heavy gun. Why does version 2 not just shoot 2 projectiles? Hallelujah, the weapon is balanced, and it does what you'd expect it to do. If you upgrade Heavy 1 to Heavy 2, it shoots 2 shots, like a regular heavy laser. And that's how they were balanced. They shoot 2 damage shots. It should make them both more reliable for hitting the enemy ship, and the extra damage is helpful. They're still statistically weaker than Heavy 2, because it shoots quicker than they do, but these offer shield pierce. And since we're here, I'm also going to pull out the crystal flak. Since we don't have an infinite amount of space on that energy bar, I'm only going to be pulling out the red version. But both versions have the same change. Their radius has went down, and they've been reverted to 4.11's rate of fire, which is 17 seconds cooldown. And yeah, that's the end of crystals. We'll harass some Mantis this time, because Mantis seem to dislike our Rockmen, and the Rockmen are the friends of our crystals, so we'll represent the squad. As you may notice, this, the EC, it is still incredibly inaccurate for tiny rooms. The radius hasn't been reduced a ton. It's noticeable, and if you aim at a 2x2 room, you'll probably hit all your shots. But if you try hitting tiny rooms like piloting, you will still whiff a lot. Especially on those auto scouts, so be aware it is still a flak, but it should do more stuff. And now we can get into the red, heavy. It's now pretty strong. Like vanilla, it does 4 damage, but this is done over 2 projectiles instead of 1. And finally, the blue version. It's just a heavy 2 with 1 pierce, so think of it like heavy pierce if it had an upgrade. And with this in mind, all of these weapons are quite enjoyable to use. And you'll definitely get a lot of mileage out of these. So, crystal heavies are no longer a meme. They're actually usable now. I think it's definitely something that was nice. You know, you go into a crystal sector, you pick this up, you were sort of disappointed before, whereas now they're nice, they're enjoyable, everyone likes to see them. And the shotguns even more so than before. And that gets us on to, unfortunately, a weapon category where I'm going to have to spawn in literally every single one of these. That is mine launchers. They have all received changes. So I'm going to have to spawn all of them in. So for mine launchers we have the typical cast 1, 2, 3 and the free version. We also have the kernel version. which is called Vine Launcher. We also have a crystal version of this, which is called Shard, which actually looks quite pretty in the 5.0. They made it look like an elite crystal weapon, same with the Vine Launcher. And we also have a set of elemental versions, which I believe will put us over our cargo capacity. So unfortunately I think we're going to have to drop the stunning mine launcher, but nobody likes the stun mine launcher anyway, so nothing was lost with this one. Anyway, let's harass some more mantis with mine launchers to get a look at what we've done. So we'll start with Nephthys, because this is the hot topic item. Nephthys is just not a mine launcher, that was the change. It's now a support weapon. Its main goal is to create breaches. If you're going to shoot at a system, Nephthys can add some breaches to it to make it harder for the enemy ship to repair the system you've just hit. And that's now its goal. It's not for hull rushing anymore. On the other hand, we have other mine launchers. The problem with mine launchers as a hull rushing weapon was they were so inaccurate. They struggled to actually deal hull damage, which kind of defeated literally the entire point of them. If you can't rush hull with them, what was the point of a mine launcher? Well, we now solved the problem by making them more accurate. We'll still need to pick large open areas of enemy ships, but most ships have somewhere that you can land the entire thing in. And the trend of them getting wider with each upgrade is still here. So Geb is actually really accurate now. We depower this and get a look at Ra. Ra is less accurate compared to, if we say get Geb up, you see a little bit of a tiny increase between them stepping up. And then Osiris fits in the middle here. So these will now serve you very well if you want to destroy enemy ships by spamming missiles at their hull. It also means that when you encounter trappers, they're going to be a lot more dangerous. So be aware that trapper encounters do now pack some danger, especially if you find yourself looking at a special trapper. So the Vine Launcher, consider what Nephthys was designed to do and amplify it a lot. That's what Vine Launcher has done. It has a faster cooldown, it shoots more mines, and they are guaranteed breaches. This thing will make enemy crew cry a lot. As for Shard Launcher, we haven't actually changed this too much. It's, I believe, a very subtle radius change. It's still very inaccurate here. This could get buffed again, if needs be. But I liked it the way it was, I think most people did. But I guess it gives us an excuse to pull out the last of those elemental ones. So we'll get ourselves stun. The elemental mine launchers have all been very, very much overhauled. They now all have a purpose. So Sekhmet takes inspiration from the loot variant. So loot Sekhmet's bonus was to crew damage. You will also find that the regular Sekhmet now also has an additional stack of crew damage. It does 90 crew damage and sets fires. So if you have done a tiny bit of damage to enemy crew, you can now kill them with this mine launcher. As for the Vine Launcher, you get the stats up for Vine Launcher. It's yeah, enemy crew are going to be killed by getting stuck in a room with breaches because it stuns them. Whereas Sekhmet prefers the burning approach, Sobek prefers the approach of just making so many breaches the enemy crew don't know what to do with it. This is unfortunately very similar to Vine Launcher now. There really wasn't much I could do with this without making it overpowered. Comparatively, the Vine Launcher should be better though, but this is a unique mine launcher found in a rare sector, whereas Sobek is just a regular mine launcher. And then we have Anubis. It has guaranteed stuns. It has an extra mine compared to the elemental ones to make up for the fact its element is kind of boring. And it has some breach chance, but it's not going to make anywhere near as many breaches as Sobek does. It produces an average of 2, Sobek produces 3, and it shoots quicker. Sobek also takes inspiration from loot weapon style modifiers. with its balance change, it will do system damage, which is unusual for a mine launcher. It's basically just a missile with missile flak even. So this thing breaks the rules a little bit to become useful. So we get ourselves a bunch of mine launchers. Obviously there's only one that hits systems, so we'll use the Sobek to damage the piloting systems. The other mine launchers can hit the target. So there we go, there goes the Sobek. It's broken piloting. And we'll now use the other mine launchers. So Sakmet, the accuracy on this, like all the other mines, is now better. On a 2x2 room, Sakmet can now guarantee to hit. This change I think will definitely make the limit 3 a lot more bearable. For those early sectors, you're no longer going to get trolled by your only weapon missing repeatedly. Sadly there's no accuracy though. And Anubis is better for stunning crew. I guess it's sort of like Partisan, but I still would prefer most weapons over this. Especially given its breach chance isn't guaranteed. Then we have Vine Launcher, which is so accurate it can hit 1x1 rooms. So this thing is very precise and very strong. It's a tiny little deadly pellet of vines. Enemy ships will have a lot of pain experienced. So anyway, we'll get our crew some healing so they can stop complaining about being low on health. And while we do this, I guess I can talk about the next category of weapons. So up next on our list we have the ancient weapons. 2 changes. One was a popular change that everyone was asking for, which was to return the Harbinger to the way it was previously. So in 5.0, Harbinger got nerfed to 3 shots. I feel like this weapon was in the same slot, balance-wise, as Momus. If it shoots 1 less projectile, it's terrible. If it shoots 1 more, it's a little broken. But unlike Momus, there's a very simple solution here. The ancient weapons are designed to be overpowered and strong weapons. There's no reason why this can't be an overpowered and strong weapon. So the solution was just to return it to 4 shots. As for the other ancient weapons, we have ourselves a weapon that everyone ignores because it had no use. Now the pacifier does have an actual purpose. It is a crew killing gun. It is guaranteed to hit. It applies a stun. It's a really long stun. And it does a tiny amount of crew damage as well. So this thing is basically a taser. And while we're here, there are some ancient pinpoints. They're not of much note. Basically the Purifier 1 and 2 have just been given rate of fire buffs to make them competitive. Because the issue with Purifier was it was actually slower than Stiletto, which meant in most situations it was worse, which is a bit awkward. And then Purifier 2, it's still just as slow as Stiletto, but it does more damage, so it makes sense. It's an ancient weapon. It's not meant to be as good as normal tech, it's meant to be better. And now it is. So we'll preload the big Purifier because it's a bit scary looking. Once that's ready, we'll harass some Mantis. So Purifier 2, extra speed just allows it to get going quicker. Pacifier now is good for trolling enemy ships. You can stop them from repairing things you don't want repaired. And it's actually really good for killing aerobic crew, so if you ever get one of these weapons outside of an ancient sector, I believe it's a starting gun on a ship, it's now really trolly. And this thing just annoys everyone. Beware though, this will also hurt your own crew. So if you drop taser things inside of enemy ships, you're gonna hit your own homies as well. And they may not appreciate that, so Be careful where you're throwing this thing, but it's good for trolling enemy crew. It just silently deletes them. And one more and we can leave. So yeah, another thing that we gave Pacifier was accuracy modifier of 100. I believe that just missed as well, which is completely baffling. I have no idea how it missed with the enemy ship having one engine, but we'll ignore that and just pretend it's meant to do accuracy. I think this is a hyperspace moment. Don't know why 100 accuracy weapon misses, but anyway, ancient weapons, they're sorted now. There's no more disparity, and the pen points, they are now worth using, instead of just looking at them and getting depressed because the pen points are crap. So, up next we have the loot and event weapons. So the easiest change is, well, the new weapon. Mild spoilers here actually, we have the DNS. I'm not going to say where this comes from, but I will say it has parity. So all of the missiles that didn't have accuracy have accuracy. DNS, no different now. Which is actually really important for this, given how large it is. This thing missing was incredible cringe. We also have a buff to the chain phaser, which... I don't know, it was very difficult to balance this. The way I've done it is because it's late game. I consider it a late game weapon, because of where it's found. The solution was to make it pierce more shields, so it pierces 4 instead of the usual phases 3. So this thing is going to be useful late game to keep enemies from having shields. And unlike the sort of chain ion, which is a bit of a meme, this is really strong for taking shields down. And it can single-handedly wipe enemy shields quite quickly once it gets going. Shouldn't be too bad. And then we have a fan favourite. In fact, I think this is probably one of the most popular weapons in the whole game. This is the Waker .5. Instead of being cripplingly depressed and underpowered, I've returned this to the way it was last update and actually buffed it. Instead of nerfing it, its radius is very small now. It's accurate on 2x2 rooms, so we'll be able to use this quite well. And we have a weapon balance change that will hopefully make Kix very happy. I've buffed his favourite gun. The cherry bomb is no longer a meme, and its way of working is very, very interesting. So this is a... well, it's the reason why I didn't want to call Chain Bomb the Bomb Vulcan. This is the Bomb Vulcan. It starts off very slowly, and once it gets going, it's something to behold anyway. We don't have reloaders, I will point out, once this thing gets going. So it does less crew damage, only 1 system damage, so you might think it's bad, but just wait until this gets firing at full speed. I'm not even going to need these extra weapons. This will solo the enemy ship on its own. And the replication chance may seem odd at first, but once you see it going at full speed it will make a lot of sense. So one more shot and then it goes crazy. We'll actually have someone man this as well, just to make it even more stupid. Yep. It is a Vulcan. Of the bomb variety. It makes a lot of noise, I will find out. And it will wreck everything. I think this one may be a little bit overtuned, but it does consume missiles, and once it starts firing, if you hold it down, it will eat your missile capacity, because it shoots a missile every half a second with max reload reductions. Well, I guess we'll chuck this so we can show the other weapons off that we've demonstrated. The cherry bomb. But now onto weapons that actually come from normal locations, the chain phaser. get this going, we'll get the Wake Up Point 5, as you can see. The radius is almost fitting this 2x2 room. It's very, very rare that it'll miss because of its radius now. I think it's a lot healthier. You're not going to be disappointed. And it still has that nice tasty status chance. And high speed associated with the Wake Up Point 5. It's still strong, it's still fun. And then at last we have DNS, which I'm going to show off with the remainder of these quest weapons, because I need it for helping the shell beam, known as the Cyclopean beam. It doesn't pierce very many shields. In the previous versions, just 5.0, the way this was changed was to make it stronger, but it didn't address the issue with this, that it didn't pierce shields. It pierces a single layer of shields now, and it makes it a lot easier to use. This is basically just Ransour 2, because it uses 2 power. And then we have a weapon that now appears in regular stores. So this is actually a very big change. This appears in normal stores now, it's the scanner. It basically exists to train your crew, and it should say on it so much. It's basically, you pay 60 scrap, your crew is now fully trained in weapons if for some reason you hadn't already. It's very useful if you have a clone bay to keep your crew from losing skills. So it's nice to keep in the cargo hold. After a battle, if your crew have been cloned, Scanner can get them back up to max training. And that's why we have a human here. We're going to demonstrate that this trains him very quickly. If you notice that bar going up, it's quick. You're not going to have to wait long now. He is now trained. And with this, you could, if you want, train the entire crew without having to wait an hour. It's very much a utility tool. In nebulas, this can be used to reveal the enemy ship, quite simply. And it doesn't need any help doing so. You just spread it across rooms that you want to look into, and it reveals them without any downsides. So yeah, we'll train our Rock as well. Look at the speed on this. It's not. You're not going to be waiting ages and using, say, a cycler bomb or something. It's just a matter of seconds and it's done. So yeah, crew training the weapon, basically. Nothing else required, really. It does its job very well. And we'll get our crew back into rooms and we can demonstrate the weapons that are in here. Yeah, a lot of people don't realise that the purpose of this was always crew training. The weapon description never stated that was what it was designed to do. It was always just a jokey weapon if you didn't quite understand why it exists. It was confusing, which is why it got removed, but I decided to instead do the mature thing of giving it a real description that explains what it's for. It's designed to help your crew learn how to operate a weapon by teaching them how to lock onto an enemy ship's hull. That's how it works. So we've given it some actual lore. Right, next up we have Salt Launcher. This weapon just pisses off everyone. You're forced to use this weapon on salt ships, and it is not enjoyable to use at all. I know the tip hasn't changed, but the tip is not important with the scanner. I changed the description. The tip is still relevant as well, though. It does still reveal rooms. If you're in a nebula, you can still use this as a way to see what's going on with your boarding, which is still useful. I would recommend a slug instead, for obvious reasons. It's passive instead of active, but if you need to see, you know, it's useful. Price-wise, yeah, it's not cheap anymore. It's a crew training CD, basically, you're paying for. So, it's 60 scrap, which equates to being around the same price as a crew with a skill in weapons, which is what you end up with afterwards. And while we're here, I guess we can pull out the last weapon that got changed. The spinny stick has received change, which follows the same theme as all the other Vulcans. Its radius is now smaller, which for this one particularly means it's actually really strong, as if it wasn't already. Once it gets going, it stops missing, and it just starts doing damage. And oh gosh, there is one more weapon. I forgot about that. Not going to talk much about the Ancient Gatling. I will say that it has received a bug fix. This is currently bugged in the normal release. I did a bug fix on this. I'm not going to show what it does. I'm not going to ignore it because it's very spoiler. I will say that it is a weapon that you can acquire, and if you do acquire it, it now functions correctly. It doesn't get stuck. It won't awkwardly hang and spin without shooting projectiles out of it. So yeah, let's load a Mantis Bomber of reasonable strength. I was a stream today. We're reading over patch notes for RB. So this is a temporary hotfix for the weapon balance. So there were a lot of changes in the playtesting that got ignored. Especially when it came to things like ions. The knock-on effect from the reloader changes wasn't actually considered, so they ended up being really terrible in the release. So I fixed that, and there were a couple of other things, like there were some bug fixes, some typos. One of the weapons had the wrong name in 5.0 for some reason, so that got changed. It's a small balance fixing patch, basically, and we're going over the patch notes today. And once that's done, I have 4 of a kind with the brand new version of Sniper. Anyway, let's look at the weapons we have equipped. So DNS, somewhat accurate now. I somehow got it to miss, almost as if on command. That was absolutely hilarious timing. Guess we'll have to wait for another one. Salt Launcher I like now. I think most people would agree this is now strong, which it should be. It's a unique crew gun. Definitely not having weak, strange, crystally salt nonsense that annoys everyone. Radius is also smaller. You can accurately hit rooms with it now, so it's not going to waste its only projectiles throwing them into space. Oh yeah, DNS. Very strong, chunky missile. We'll get Spinny Stick loaded up. And we'll demonstrate Cyclopean Beam. So this is Ransour 2. And being real, it's not hugely unique. The Shell Beam from the Shell Scientists. It now just makes everyone cry. It pierces that shield. Quite good. And the Salt Launcher is just extra salty today. It's got 3 projectiles instead of 2. So it does 50% more damage. It is slower on cooldown, but not by a huge amount. And yeah, Spinny Stick too. That radius is no longer so wide it covers the entire enemy ship. It's now actually quite tight. It's the least accurate out of all of the Vulcans, but it's still not throwing lasers into space for no reason. And yeah, we have a weapon that will pretend doesn't exist temporarily. We'll move on to the civilian weapons. Oh well, the loot weapons. It starts with the civilian weapons. So this is actually a weapon that was already overpowered, but the reason it got buffed is because it now comes with negative notoriety. So Corwell's Burst causes you to lose a lot of rep with the militia if you try stealing it, and there's an option to buy it, so because it now has danger associated with it, I've made it stronger. I think that I'd rather the event got changed back, and once I work out how to do that, I'm going to actually remove this balance change altogether. It'll just go back to being normal. But for now, it's a tiny touch stronger on status chances, to make up for the fact that you have to lose notoriety in order to pick it up. It is still a burst 1, A burst 1 is not very strong in Sector 5+, which is where you get it from. So its main function is to annoy the enemy ship with statuses. And that has not changed. What has changed drastically is probably now my favourite weapon from the overhaul. Let's spell it correctly. Free Mantis. The Free Mantis had two weapons that could drop. One of them was a somewhat interesting weapon. The other was a stun bomb, and I hate it. I think everyone hated it. The way I've changed this is by making it a completely unique weapon. This is so different to everything else now. It is just a vast change. It is now a very unique weapon. It consumes 2 missiles, and in exchange you do 5 system damage, 5 ion damage, you're guaranteed a stun, and it has fire chance on top, so it is an enormous explosive that will absolutely decimate enemy crew, and the stun is enormous. So this thing is a great opener for boarding, especially with Free Mantis, who can quickly jump in and pick off the crew that are stunned from the explosive. It is, however, expensive, and to counteract this, we have given it enough accuracy to reliably hit every single ship you encounter. Unless the enemy cloaks, it's going to hit them. So it's now unique and interesting. As for the adjusted, since someone's asked about this, this is a new feature that was added to make it less confusing. Basically, if a weapon sets fire, it cannot breach. So the likelihood of this weapon breaching is only actually 20%, even though its breach chance is 50%. So the fire gets in the way of the breaches, basically. Which can make balancing weapons with both statuses very annoying. Anyway, let's move on to Mantis Bomb. So Mantis Bomb made no sense. In fact, I think it was probably the worst loot weapon in terms of being nonsense. I've only changed the tips on all of these to match the new stats, but basically the way this used to work is it was a small bomb with a microscopic chance to do fires, and it was just really embarrassing. Now it is a bio bomb that also does damage to systems. So it's 2 weapons in one. That's your loot weapon. It's the Mantis solution to problems, which is to get rid of the crew. And it's quite useful now. There's 60 crew damage and 3 system. So really, out of the loot weapons, this is version 1 of your loot bomb, and then this is version 2. So yeah, that's how we do it. And then finally we have a new weapon that is brand new. I've replaced the Dynasty loot weapon. It's now called Void. It is very different. So if you've ever heard of the very famous Ember Beam and wondered why there's not a breach equivalent, I've answered the question. This weapon functions in the exact same way as Ember. It ignores all shields and is a ridiculously strong version of its base weapon. So it is, of course, based on Ransaw. It creates an enormous pile of breaches. This thing will very easily crew kill on its own by simply draining the oxygen on the enemy ship very quickly, and it ignores shields, so it requires no support to get going. And it's very interesting. And in the later version of the balance patch, this will have a black beam, but that wasn't added in time, sadly. And I guess we have to talk about the cringy weapon, because it also got changed. The worst Kali loot, known as Subtractor, a weapon that I don't like existing. It is a 2 missile bomb that deletes a crew. It subtracts their health, which is apparently a funny joke. And it was a terrible, terrible weapon. But now, in order to make it justify its enormous and outrageous cost, it has guaranteed accuracy. The Subtractor will subtract enemy crew when you shoot it. But it's expensive, so use it at your own discretion and peril. You'll run out of missiles very quickly still. But you won't be firing missiles into the void, so that's your advantage, I suppose. And since we're on the theme, I guess it's time to harass some more Mantis. Especially with the crew-killing bombs. So let's look at Void Beam a minute. It's just really evil. No, if the enemy ship is there, it's just gone now. They're never going to fix all these breaches. You can make, I believe, 9 if you get really lucky with room layouts. But yeah, the breaches are a bit out of control, which is what it's supposed to do. Even an overpowered loot weapon. Because it comes from a very rare sector, and now it's really strong. Anyway, on the theme of things, not changed, let's look at this Mantis one. Lots of crew damage. So 60. I feel like it's still a pretty bland weapon overall. It's just a slightly larger small bomb, but it's not terrible. It's not going to let you down, and when you pick it up, it might be useful. We then look at Subtractor, it doesn't miss. It can miss if the enemy crew run out of the room though, that's definitely a weakness it has. We'll subtract this dude from the equation. It does also do 1 system damage, and there's a reason for that. If you have a weapon that does absolutely 0 damage, it cannot ignore Zolt and Shield. It now has 1 system, so it will never miss. If the enemy has Zolt and Shield, it will pass through it, which is nice. You don't need bypass for that either, which makes this odd and a bit unique. And then we arrive at the Giant Stun Explosive. So this one, I guess I throw on shields. It sets fires if you get lucky, otherwise it just is pain. That 5 system damage is really nasty. I'm going to need a bigger ship for this. Load the Big Boy Bomber for this one. Wow, they have really high level engines. Let's utilise that Subtractor, huh? And I guess a bit of the Void Beam as well. I want to demonstrate this man. So you get a system with it. It completely depowers it. It does a total of 10 damage to power bars, 5 from the physical damage, and then another 5 from ion. And the system damage applies before the ion, unlike a plasma style weapon. So you pay 2 missiles, but you turn the enemy ship's weapon system off, or shields if you choose. Shields. I guess we can show as well, Void, it does indeed pierce lots of shield. 5 shields is no problem, 10 isn't either. And yeah, these are all explosives. They're all quite expensive. The stun and the subtractor will make your missile count reach 0 very quickly. Out of these two though, I still think the stun is better. Crew damage is insane, the system damage is insane. It's a one weapon solution to a lot of problems. And for some reason, I have noticed this as well, shields behaves differently to weapons. It will only get hit for 5, but it will be 5 that is definitely gone for a while. And yeah, that's a stun. The Mantis are gone, and the loot weapons are also going to be gone. We've talked about all of them now. At least the ones that have changed. And of course, to make sure we haven't forget, there is Core World Burst, but nobody likes that weapon, so it's all tidied up. So we can talk about something a lot more fun. The most controversial change I've made. So I've unpatched the bug with Unspooler that made its missiles funny. Which, I mean, fight me over this change. I think the Free Mantis deserves to have funny missiles. So this now, the missiles do funny. I'll demonstrate that shortly. As for actual balance changes though, instead of being hull bust, it now just has more missiles. So it's different to Obsidian now, and its radius is large, so you know, it's not just Obsidian with cloaked missiles, it's unique. We also have a weapon that nobody seemed to like getting dropped, the Frost Charge Gun. This one was an odd one to balance. I'm not really sure what to make of it stat-wise, but it shoots a little bit quicker, which is a stopgap solution before something more permanent. I honestly think this weapon would be better served by having a wider charging bay, of maybe, say, 6 or 7, to make it more unique as a boss weapon. But anyway, that's a change for someone else to do. What I instead have is the Ion Changer, which is quite something. It's now 2 power instead of 3, which means that compared to the 4.11, it's had its power usage halved, which is a big change. So this is no longer a complete waste of time. Its power usage is balanced, and since weapons seem to be encroaching on its usability, the Never Miss, which I believe is just Never Miss, yeah, it now has an additional point of system damage. It's Stiletto, but with less hull damage, and no chance of missing anything, because it ignores shields. So let's load a agreeably large Mantis bomber. Let's load the biggest one that we can get. So Nightshade is, it's a thing, and as you may note, it does some funny rotating shenanigans. I struggle to take it seriously, but yes, the Free Mantis don't know how to load missiles in. They've had too many pheromones, and their missile launcher is a little sus, but they tried their best to make it a good weapon. As best as a Free Mantis can do with an engineering task, which is not very. And then Charge Frost exists. I think the main issue with this is it still has radius. I might adjust this again as well, because I'm not sure. I think the radius, like, this weapon breaks trends because it does something that other weapons of its type don't do. There are no other charge guns with a radius on them, so I really don't know how to balance this, because it's not something that you'd expect on a charging gun. I don't know why it has it, so I don't know. It seems like the idea perhaps is to do this, to have it miss intentionally so it locks more rooms down, but I struggle to see how this is actually useful. But anyway, yes, the Nightshade, it does look very similar to WTAF, I suppose. That's an eerie similarity. But yes, they look very funny now. The Free Mantis have created a meme. It just looks so stupid, and it's really not accurate. It will need piloting taken down to be useful. And at that point, the meatball is just evil. If the enemy has no piloting, they cannot dodge, which is how this is intended to be used. You remove piloting, and this thing just deletes them, with no questions asked. Which means, ironically, Never Miss and Nightshade go together like bread and butter now. If I load another bomber, because we need to torture more Mantis apparently, we never miss their piloting, Nightshade will reveal that it does Big Ouch. And that's because it has negative accuracy. Because the Free Mantis really screwed up designing this gun, it can't lock onto enemy ships properly if they're moving. So if you want to get Nightshade to do something, it will need piloting removed. So you could use an augment for that, you could hack the piloting, or you can blow it up with, say, never miss or some other pinpoint, like stiletto. And then it's useful, provided its radius doesn't make it fall off the sides. It looks like we have ourselves a little bit of a mantis party going on. Let's reduce this enthusiasm. The test bomber is demonstrating passive resistance. Perhaps a little bit too much. Anyway. That's all of our boss loot weapons sorted. 4 changes that were quite justified. And now we've finally arrived at the point where I explain why I picked this ship over just some regular force slaughter. Because we need to talk about the drones. The difference between this patch and the previous one is that we have drone changes now. Drones were handled a lot better, in my opinion. There were not very many that stuck out as being underpowered. Most of them did their job very well, so I commend the effort. The actual dev team on making drones good. My quarry was with the loot ones particularly. I think some of them were pretty underwhelming. A lot of people just sold them. I think it's a bit of a shame. So they never actually really got used. So to solve that problem, we're going to need ourselves. We'll still need a weapon. I'm going to use Ion 4 as our shield breaking tool to make the drones do their job, so that we can demonstrate the new drone changes. So we have Hellfire. The Hellfire's change, while you can't see it via the stats, I will reveal how this works. So previously it had a length of 10 and a speed of 12, so it was slower than the Hullraiser, and its beam was, well, it wasn't really a beam, it was just a pinpoint. Now it has a mini beam that sets fires, so it will burn enemy ships a lot quicker, including your own. This little drone is really dangerous now, and you don't want it to hit you, or you will very quickly burn. And if you have the plus version of it that starts on a ship, so if we load up player, you get Hell Plus. This also uses the same drone weapon, so it now also has a mini beam. And I'm going to leave the drones here, and we're going to load a Mantis Bomber to demonstrate what happens when you ignore the big scary flaming drone. The Mantis are going to suffer, so you don't have to. So as soon as that shield breaks, those Mantis are very dead. I'm going to get another Ion to get this going a bit quicker. And yes, as you can see, these beams are very long now. They're going to set between 1 and 5 fires if you get really unlucky on those corner tiles. And the Hellraisers will now burn an enemy ship out around twice as fast as they did previously. Which, as I've already mentioned, includes your own ship, so be aware of the fire. If your shields are gone, these drones will delete you from existence very quickly. But it does also mean that when you use them, they're actually useful. They set fires. They ruin the fun very quickly. So yeah. I'll just let the Mantis suffer. And they're gone. So next on the list we have another brand new item. I'm very proud of this one actually. So if you've ever wondered why the stun version of Pest never gets used, basically it's because it's useless. It doesn't really do anything. I can't change the ID name, but I can change its in-game name. And what I've done well, as I will demonstrate shortly, is change it completely. It's no longer a stunner. Pest stun. So these, I don't know why they're 0 power. I think that change was stupid. They should definitely be 1 power. Anyway. This version is now a frost. So, if we get ourselves... I'm going to get a small mantis bomber to test with. So it has a small shield that doesn't take long to break. These are going to move very quickly. And they're going to cause absolute havoc. They apply lockdown. So if you have no shields, these things are going to stop your crew moving completely. And not with one of them. I have 3, which is completely excessive. But if you have 3 of these, and you've ever wondered what it would be like to use the other mode, well, there's now something worth using here. You can basically tell the enemy crew they're not allowed to move around on their own ship. And not only does it completely troll them, it also will very slowly kill them through damage from the impacts. So these things are quite horrifying now. With one of them it will roughly halve the amount of space you can move around in, but with many of them you can't move. The shields are down. Thankfully they don't do any actual damage though, it's all in the tiny breach chance and the frost effect. But yes, we have frost drones now. The mantis are going to suffer a lot while they get frosted to death slowly. I wonder how long that little mantis can survive in the corner for. Oh, not very long by the look of it. Yes. You now have a choice between Past Breach and Past Frost, which is a lot more interesting. And speaking of drones that needed changed, the AMP Ion drone was always just statistically inferior to the AMP Energy drone. It didn't do enough ion damage. In fact, it didn't do enough ion damage to consistently stop enemy shields from coming back online, which for 4 power is quite shambolic. For 4 power you can have an Ion 3 or a pair of Ion Heavies, which will very easily make shields go away on their own. So it was a bit of a problem. The way they've been balanced is remarkably simple. So this, instead of having a speed of 4, has a speed of 5, which is better. And since we'll need some other things to go with that, I'm going to actually have both of the amphiforms. What is it called? Drone... Amphi-Defense, I'm just spelling it wrong. There we go, Amphi-Defense drone. So previously these had a reload of, I think it was absolutely outrageously slow. It was like 1500 or something. It was unusably bad. This now is just an ever so slightly worse version of a guard drone, an ever so slightly worse version of a combat drone, with the gimmick being you can switch between them when you need it. So these, they're not unusable now. And then the Ion drone is actually good. The Ion variant. If I load a big bomber. In fact, we're going to probably go for the maxed bomber here. Make sure it generates all those shields. So this thing, it still looks really slow, but it's 20% faster. Imagine how slow this was. Previous update, if you'd never used it. This thing was just a brick. It still does 3 ion damage, that has not changed. As for the defense, it now shoots missiles down a little bit quicker. It can still miss, which it just did. I think that was on command. Sometimes the game just happens to know what I'm in the mood for. That was definitely one of those moments, but yeah. As with all defense drones, use them with caution, don't rely on them. This, however, shouldn't have an issue of not being able to actually target things like flak consistently. It has enough rate of fire to actually keep doing its job. And then if I get some more bars of power, I have to steal some from my med bay again. And per crew. We have the Amphi Combat. It's still slow. It sits between the Conservative and the Combat 1. I think really the problem is the Conservative drone is overpowered, but it's a stopgap solution. The Amphi drone is designed to be a temporary fix to everything, not a long-term solution. You probably will still sell this eventually. And the issue with this ion drone still remains. If it whiffs, it's really bad. It'll lose all its ion stacks, so I still recommend using at least a weak ion weapon to help this thing along. A solution would be, say, ion conserving. I'll need a real weapon in here as well. Say laser burst 8. Power this, so I can conserve it weapon fire. If you could do something like this, it would be fine. This drone now should be able to keep shields off. You only need something to keep it going in the off chance it misses. And it'll then do its job better. As the Conservative versus Amphi debate, the Amphi now actually does move noticeably quicker. So it's still debatable whether it's worth that 2 power cost, but it's not a one-sided thing anymore. There is an argument to be made for the Amphi now, in both its applications. Anyway, let's get this bomber out of the way and talk about some more exciting drones. Drones that will make you go, ooh, well known as loot drones. The loot drones have had some radical changes to make them very different. But before we get there, we have everyone's favourite drone, with a really annoying to remember name. Anyway, we have the Wonder Drone, which comes in 4 forms. Drone, combat, random. Is it not beam? It is indeed beam. There we go. We get ion. Now we'll get drone combat. Missile. So this drone never made any sense to anyone because it had a simple problem. Why does one drone decide it's going to move at like 5 different speeds for the same power? The solution was to just make its attacks all move at the same speed, so I think this is the missile one, so we'll get rid of the laser. The laser shoots slower because it's a defective drone, so its default configuration doesn't work properly. That's its whole joke now. It has basically an ion, a beam, and a missile. That laser hanging off the side is useless. First load a very weak Mantis bomber, let's say 1. Oh, it's put all its points in weapons, fun. So you'll notice these all now move at exactly the same speed. There's no speed difference, depending on its projectile. And I would say that the missile form of this is probably the best now, followed very closely by the ion. And then you have the beam if you want some slightly stronger beam drone. But no, the fun with that one is definitely the ion and absolutely the missile version, as it is the only way to get a missile drone out of the ancient sector, which is probably for good reason. Missile drones are very overpowered, and I don't think there is an exception to be made for the Wonder drone. So yeah, the missile mode is the one you want to keep re-rolling it for. Obviously you only have a 1 in 4 chance each time you re-roll it of getting missile, so it will probably take a good couple of sectors before you get it on missile. But once it's ready, it's going to make the enemy suffer a lot of pain. But anyway, now we can arrive at the actual loot exclusive weapons. So we get the drone, and we want the engineer one. So this comes from the reactor encounter. If you've done the engineer unlock quest, you'll remember that this cloaked drone appears, and it probably went immediately to the nearest store to get sold, because it didn't really do anything. It was just a cloaked drone that couldn't become a laser drone, so what was the point of it really? Well, now it's definitely, it's something anyway. It's a very strong beam, and it moves actually quite fast, so it's going to do a lot of damage. It's still a beam drone with no pierce. It will need some help from some ion friends. Perhaps the ion weapons being actually good now, people might actually have a way to use this drone by having an ion setup, which isn't something most people would consider previously. So we'll load up a weak mantis bomber, so I can take those shields off easily. I'll take a look at this drone. It is rather fast. It has a little beam. It's like a scythe beam now, like a baby scythe beam. The beam moves super duper quickly, and it has the same length as a mini beam, so it can reliably do 2 or 3 damage, depending on where it decides to clip. Like here it did 2. If we get really lucky, we might see a 3 before the mantis ship dies. Nope, not today. Oh well, you get the idea. Its beam is longer, so it's not going to just do 1 damage every hit at a reduced rate. It will keep up with other drones, and it is still cloaked, so it will annoy anti-drones a lot with its whole goofy persona. But anyway, we're looking for things that are perhaps exciting and interesting. You may be more interested in the biobeam drone, which has a creative name of Drone Beam Bio. Or was it Drone Bio? Drone, I think it was Drone Biobeam. No? What am I doing? Drone Biobeam. Oh, that's the name of the weapon. Never mind. Combat Biobeam. It's the other combination I haven't tried. Combat Biobeam. So previously this drone had a problem of, well, it just not being very well balanced. It uses the 4-shard beam, which immediately was questionable. How does a drone utilise a weapon that is very precise in its usage? The answer was it didn't. It was too slow, and it put too much emphasis on very heavy hitting attacks that would often hit nothing. The solution was to make it move stupidly fast. I'm still going to need lots of these for them to actually do something. I don't think my change has remedied the general issue of a drone with a biobeam being useless, but we've got about halfway there, I'd say. We're going to need a lot of these though. And I'm going to load a mantis bomber of very low class. Oh, somehow we generated 2 shields in Sector 1. That is a bit of a bra moment. Anyway, let's get these out. So these things move stupid fast now. And they deliver they deal biobeam tickles that hurt crew a lot if they somehow hit them. So you'll notice this mantis took 30 damage. Previously these moved at around 1/3 of this speed, and they did 60. The problem was they'd just float around for a year, not hitting anything. So by making them shoot more stuff, they will hit things sooner. They also do reduce system damage to counter this, but because they shoot quickly, the overall effect is more. As you can see, we have a bit of a problem. These drones don't know how to aim. So we've done thousands and thousands of crew damage, but it's not actually done anything. Waiting on these things to kill crew is just... the O2 will kill them quicker. So this drone only appears on one ship. It's a slug ship that starts with it, and that's the only way to get one. And you only get one of these, so you can imagine the problem of this. Like, imagine this is your only way to damage the enemy ship. To do actual damage, you have to rely on this. I mean, this is deprived and annoying, but imagine this at a third of the speed, but only double the damage. It's not going to hit anything. I mean, in that entire fight of having these drones up for like a whole minute, 3 of them, I think we only hit 2 things that whole time. That 2 mounters were hit 3 times in total. It's still bad. And yes, the speed on this, it has drone speed of 100, which is the highest. Past drone is only 60. I still feel like it's not very viable, because I can't fix the problem of this drone. The issue is it's never going to actually target crew, because it has to randomly roll every room on the entire ship and somehow win the lottery, and somehow target a room someone is standing in. It's not going to happen. So, can't really fix this drone until drones get targeting options. Perhaps with a little bit of hyperspace help. This drone might one day be useful. Yeah, because it's modelled on the foreshard, I'll actually go and find that in the normal blueprints. One moment. Let's go and show you what it's modelled on. So if I search for beam guillotine, so how do you spell guillotine? That's actually a real problem. 2 L's. Nope, I spelt it wrong. Gosh, it's that bad of a thing to spell, I'm actually going to put it in chat. This thing. There it is, foreshard. Right, so these drones are basically meant to be a drone equivalent of this beam. This beam is a confusing mess, but it's very useful if you know what you're doing. It's a particle beam that does an enormous amount of crew damage. So it can take the role of both the particle beam and bio beam all in one weapon package. The drone takes this weapon and makes it portable, and it's terrible because you can't aim it. So you have particle beams being shot into empty rooms constantly, and that doesn't do anything. And that's my problem with this. Even if you have ion weapons, this drone is still terrible, and you'll be waiting ages on it doing something. Like, I would like to remind you, we're playing on speed here as well. On normal speed, this weapon is cringe. Like this drone. So we'll get some ion going. This is on normal speed. This drone is fast, but it's not incredibly fast. Imagine this drone at a third of the speed. That's what it was before. A third of the speed and pretty much no different in terms of damage. It's, no. The old version of this was unusably bad, and I would never want to wish upon anyone that would be forced to use this crap. Even with the buffs, I don't like it, and I would never use this. I would still recommend selling this immediately for something that's actually useful. Ironically, the particle drone is better than the particle beam drone by quite a large margin because it sets fires. So even if it can't aim, the fires will at least do something. But no, this is just really disappointing. And I don't know how to remedy it with a little balance patch, so... yeah. Kix will have to recommend a suggestion on how to actually change this in a way that's constructive, because I don't know. I don't know how to make this better without making it overpowered. But the old version, although I don't have it loaded, it was just not enjoyable to use in any way at all. So, guillotine is done. all gone. And then we can talk about drones that won't cringe people out. And yes, it did eventually touch something. We're still going to have to finish the Mantis off with another weapon. We can use the real Force Shard to get rid of them. And the real Force Shard is actually quite useful. If we go back to the speed that I usually play on, normal Force Shard is very ouchy. And yeah, anti-bio lasers is a good way to remedy it. That is the solution that is used for the particle drone. It just uses a laser projectile instead of a beam, and it's infinitely better. Anyway, let's get these cringe drones out of here and talk about something exciting. The Roomba, the ultimate meme that I have just misspelt, which is absolute sacrilege. What are you? Roomba border. Wait, what? Am I spelling this right? We have found a bug, I think. No, I accidentally spawned a regular boarding drone. Whoops, whoopsies. Roomba. I guess we should have one that's on defense as well, because the Mantis do board. But we have Roombas. So a Roomba is a kitchen appliance, basically, and I don't understand why a kitchen appliance uses more power than a giant industrial gun, so the Roomba now uses 1 power, and it will clean up your enemies quite efficiently. So if we load ourselves, we can actually roll 0 on this. Give it a bad roll for the Mantis, and we'll throw some Roombas at them. They get yeeted at the enemy, and they will clean up your problems very efficiently. As you can see, the Roombas run around. You don't even need to control them. They just seek out enemies and poke them in the face very rudely. And Roombas will remove your problem for 1 power instead of 2, because they're a kitchen appliance. And kitchen appliances should not use more power than my giant cannon. So, onto the Lanius, who are the masters of dismantling auto scouts. They've learned that they need to actually use the weapons from them. But before we get there, we need the undeconstructed drones. So this one is another brand new one. It says Combat 1. That's because of the flavor text on it, even though it was a Combat 2 in 5.0. This is now a Combat Drone Mark III. It is a brand new drone. I'll need to change the name, obviously, later on, but we also have the second one. So this is also not a beam one, this is a pike beam now, and by pike beam I mean a real pike beam. So these are some very exciting drones that do a lot of damage, and I'm going to demonstrate them one at a time. So for the Combat 3, I mean, you'll see what it does immediately. It's just a stupidly fast drone. It moves fast. It's 4 power, and it has a speed of 65. And in exchange, it moves and shoots. I believe this is shooting 4 times as fast as a normal combat drone. So the power efficiency scaling here is enormous. It is of course a loot weapon, but you get what you deserve from this loot transport. You fought the scary loot transport and you got the prototype drone. And it will easily decimate enemy ships, and yes, it has the same speed as a pest drone, coincidentally. So, it's a pest drone if pest drones do damage, which is scary. And then we have probably the most evil thing to have ever been created. The beam variant is probably the strongest drone in this update. If you've ever wondered what a real weapon on a drone would look like, this is your answer. This drone has a full-fat, unnerved pike beam. And by that I mean it has a literal pike beam. It's 170 length. Now it is very, very slow. I mean, if you first use it, you'll wonder, why is this so slow? As soon as it fires, you'll know why. Just look at its beam, it's enormous for a drone. But the length, like, it's evil! And pike beam drone will, if you take shields off, and it rolls a nice long area, it will slice the ship in half. Like a pike beam. So it can roll 4, 5, even 6 damage per shot, depending on where it decides to hit with its beam. So the damage output on this is uncanny. It is just a bit slow, but you make it work for this one. This beam is worth building around. Especially against big ships like the flagship, it's going to be doing probably 4 damage on average, which is a lot of damage for a drone. So it's worth having. Anyway, we've had some auto drones, and now we get to the other masters of drones. Loot. Oh my gosh, the name length for this. So the only one that's been changed here is the version for this one. So this is the Lanius loot drone. It was absolute trash in the previous update. It was just a beam drone that has breach and a bit of speed. It's not impressive. It's now a different type of beam as well. It has a unique beam type. I don't need to fight any iron weapons because it has 1 point of shield pierce now. And that's its deal. It has some shield pierce, so it's easier to get going. And that's the change for Lanius loot. The reason I did this is because the other Lanius loot drone also has a point of shield pierce. So now both of the Lanius loot drones have shield pierce. So they're the same. Their buff is identical, plus 1 shield pierce. For both beam and laser. So it's a bit of consistency. I'll sell this and get out of the way. And we are almost running out of stuff to do. We've got Lanius loot. Oh yes, we have the... yeah, this one's still bad. The NG loot drone, which is a defense drone. So in the previous update, this only had 90 MS cooldown reduction. So it was just a really bad version of a guard drone. Now it has a 334 millisecond cooldown reduction. So it has a cooldown, a very funny cooldown of 666 milliseconds, which is very intentional. The NGs have created Robot Satan to defend themselves. And we have indeed rolled a missile to see this thing do its only job, which is to, well, shoot missiles, I guess. And this thing will shoot down a lot of missiles. It's still worse than Trinity. If you get offered Trinity, replace it. Because this thing is just not versatile enough. The guard drones having other functions is good. I like that. This drone having only 1 mode is bad. I wouldn't use it. Anyway, let's get this out of here so we can talk about things that are exciting. Unlike questionable loot drones that have very questionable rates of fire. We'll find something else to complain about. And complaining is indeed the theme of the next one, because there's a weapon you can't normally obtain. It's an enemy-only weapon. It is the flagship Flak Power Surge. You're probably wondering what on earth has changed with this. It will be immediately obvious as soon as I fire it what's missing from it. So if I fire it, without auto fire obviously. Oh, we don't use power. Hold on, where's the... Give me an iron weapon back. Stupid thing. So this weapon, I don't understand why it doesn't do anything, but yeah, instead of having a fake projectile and a real projectile, it just has a fake projectile removed. So the flagship no longer has a scary looking power surge. And the reason I changed it was so that if you had defense drones and not cloaking, you should now be able to actually defend yourself. Instead of having a giant swarm of fake flak projectiles eat your defense drones. That will no longer happen because there's half as much flak. Anyway, that's just a small one. It's completely unrelated to everything else. We'll remove this. And we'll look at something that is used on a player ship, the vanilla artillery of the flak variety. And once again using artillery weapons on a normal ship that doesn't have an artillery system. The meme has been achieved. And I'm satisfied. So the Fragatide's artillery hasn't been changed, it's the same in terms of stats. However, it has more fake projectiles to help it get through defense drones. So instead of shooting... Oh, you're another stupid zero power weapon, god damn it. There we go. Fire the artillery! As you can now see, there's a lot more projectiles in here. There's a lot more fake ones, so it'll get through defense drones a lot easier. And it still does a crap load of damage. So Fragatide is good now. I feel like with a lot of enemies having more complicated things, having it get updated to fit with Multiverse better would be nice. So defense drones will no longer upset you if you're a fan of the Fragatide. And speaking of artillery systems that got changed, we have a really microscopic change to another artillery weapon. A change that I actually didn't notice until I was digging through the files. Oh, I sold my weapon again. Oops. Conservative weapons, damn it. Anyway, this thing, it used to shoot little flaming blobs, like plasma blobs, but they changed it to be just a boring and generic beam, which I think is still sad. I am very tempted to just revert this completely back to a plasma thrower and buff it. But for now, we've got some changes to make it a little more bearable. So the change really was to just make it stop being incredibly slow. Instead of being a slow beam, it's a fast beam. That's the change with it. The beam doesn't take a year to cross the enemy ship. It's now got a speed of 20 instead of, I think it was like 5 or something. So the beam, it comes in, it swipes, it's gone, and that's it. The ship's on fire, and very dead, if it has oxygen. Artillery beam moment though. We set every tile of that ship on fire. It's been tortured. And then, oh, we get to talk about something funny. Are these all conserving weapons when used by the player? No, they're not. They're actually power. Nice. Artillery MFK... So MFK weapons have run into a problem of... Well, the MFK flagship getting buffed constantly in every single patch has created something a little cringy. If you don't happen to be using Carnage and Onslaught, and want to actually play the game without using overpowered items, you run into the problem of not being able to do anything because the MFK ship now has a power surge, a giant Zoltan shield, it's got timer, it's got... It's been given too much stuff, so I've just given it a reality check. The change with this is rather subtle. In fact, most people probably wouldn't even notice it's been changed. We'll get these in their normal configuration and power them on. I'll load a big Mantis bomber because we have actual flagship guns. I'm going to give myself cloaking as well, because that would be relevant. This late in the game, we'd obviously have cloaking. So this is a nerf rather than a buff. Most of the patches in the update that I provided here are all buffs. The MFK was one of the few nerfs that's thrown in here. It's just a 2-second reduction in the cooldown across the board. If you're playing on extreme, this is still like, I think it's like a half a second change. You're not going to notice this at all. It's more just for people playing on lower difficulties. The MFK flagship is no longer a machine gun that also has power surges and a bunch of other nonsense. Some would say I've ruined the fun a bit. I like, maybe, sure, but it needed to stop being stupid. We've got a beam in here. Yeah, we've become the MFK flagship temporarily. We're missing the Zoltan shield and all the annoying crew though. But yes, we've almost achieved greatness. And if I consider this a player ship, you know, like the MFK weapons aren't just steamrolling it, although this would be the equivalent of playing casual, so the flagship isn't much of a challenge on casual, like the MFK one. Because on extreme the cooldowns are a quarter of what you're seeing here. These attack speeds would be playing on casual, I think, is level 2 artilleries, and then normal's 3, so yeah, this is the lowest they go in terms of rate of fire, but they are a little bit more balanced. It's mostly for the mid-ranges we would make this change. And we have a couple of things at the bottom here that were thrown in. If I get artillery beam for the enemy ships, because this is one that actually went unnoticed for a while. Oh, I put the letter T in, that's very funny. Let's not put the letter T in. Letter Y in. So, enemy artillery beam. It could spawn because of the changes to ship weight. Because enemy ships were given more points to play with at the expense of engines, you were more likely to run into this artillery beam. And I noticed it doing very naughty things that it wasn't meant to be doing. So I've decided to nerf it a little. And I think for dramatic effect I'm actually going to temporarily get 4 of these out. But the issue with them was it was an enemy artillery beam that basically, at the point in the game you found it, functioned like a real artillery. And it wasn't balanced. It had 3 shield piercing, I've knocked it down to 2. It still has the length and damage of a normal artillery beam, which wasn't really fair if the enemy had it. Because if I simulate a player in, say, sector 4, they've got 3 shields, right? Well, if it has 3 shield pierce, it goes through those shields, uncontested. And that's kind of a problem. And you could, if you got really unlucky, I'm going to just re-roll this until it gets 2 shields. You could arrive in this situation, and it's still a problem right now. I can't fix this. It's a game problem, not a me problem sort of thing going on here. You could have something like this, a ship like this, Sector 4. This artillery beam comes along and it does this. And this is pain. Instead of it being a problem later in the game, you know, with all the scrap nerfs, people don't have as many shields, so this artillery kind of just dicked people over early in the game. It's less of a menace now, but it's still, I'd say, a bit overpowered still. I'd rather the enemies just didn't have artillery beams outside of the ancient sector to begin with. And that would be a healthier change. Actually just remove this entirely from the enemy pool. Because the artillery still is an experimental super weapon, it's not something this class of ship is supposed to be using on a regular basis. So yeah, we'll get his beams out of here. That's another well-deserved nerf, which should make it less of a game over. And now we arrive at funny gas. This is not a weapon. It is a mood. And I can't spell it, because its name is obnoxiously long. I'm actually going to have to put this under the window a minute. Hold on. Weapon. Artillery. Annihilation. Seal of armor. Right, so this is called... It's called a tube. Okay, I didn't know that. The tube of gas. The fog launcher. The balance change here is to actually make this a real threat. And the way I did that was by making it shoot really, 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 really quickly. So an enemy using this, they usually have an artillery that's maxed. So they're going to have the equivalent of 4 of these. And we're going to demonstrate very quickly what 4 gas tubes does to an enemy ship. So the tube launcher, it produces gas. Now, on the current version, it would be shooting this, say, on auto fire. A cloud here, a cloud here. One over here, it maybe misses. One over here. But now we have lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of gas. You're basically not going to see what you're doing if you fight the Sealer Former now. It's going to be more like this. There are nebula clouds going everywhere. You will not see the ship. You'll be covered in a nebula. Also, this reminds me there's an opportunity to do rude things with the Sealer Former. It must be done for science. Let's remove this thing's auto fire and... Let's go 1, 2, 3, 4, and they miss. You know what I need? For science, of course, we're going to get hacking and stop them dodging my funny gas. Hacking is not working. Okay, let's use mind control. In fact, even better, give me an ion. Give me something. What do I need? I need hacking to work. Why is hacking not working? It's powered. I don't know. It's being annoying and it's ruining the fun, but anyway, let's hope we don't miss. Probably gonna miss one. You get the idea. You can draw gas on the enemy ship. Yeah, there you go. You can draw a Chad with gas, if you so choose, using console commands. There we go. That's the meme we're all looking for. Funny gas. But if you find the Sealer Former in the wild, it will shoot around 50% quicker. So it's going to be more of an annoying thing than just occasionally putting a tiny blob of nebula on your ship, you're going to get covered in nebula. If you don't break the seal of armor quickly, you're not going to be able to see what you're doing anymore. Goodbye. Like tubes. Tubes of funny gas. We arrived at the end. I believe there's one more change of note. That is to the dreadnought weapons. So they were inconsistent in the previous update. Weapon Royal Dread. So these previously had a cooldown of 30 and 40 seconds respectively. I've made them meet in the middle. So both of them now have the exact same cooldown of 35 seconds. Which is also a buff to the Royal Dreadnought and a nerf to the Ancient Dreadnought, which seems fitting because the Royal Dreadnought is supposed to be stronger than the Ancient one, so there's no reason for it to have a weaker weapon system in its artillery slot. So the Royal Dreadnought's artillery is now comparably stronger instead of weaker than the green one. They're both still absolutely horrifying. You never want to get hit by these, ever. I will now demonstrate with a Mantis bomber that did not prepare its cloaking system that these things are not a joke. As you can see, if you don't cloak, you're dead very quickly. And I have not changed that with this balance change, I've just made them consistent. It means that it'll be easier to memorise the timings so you'll know when they're going to go off, because they have the same cooldown. And they no longer make no sense in terms of a balance perspective. So yeah. We've arrived at the end. Last balance change, just a small one here, to another funny weapon. The Rock Guard at Stonewall's Castle, the blue rock ship, has an artillery weapon on it. I have buffed considerably. It now shoots a Swarm 2 instead of a Swarm 1. And it does so with a little bit more accuracy as well. It's not accuracy buff, it's radius reduction, so it's less likely to target a tile that isn't on your ship. Which means this is actually very menacing. There's 5 rockets now. So treat this as a dangerous encounter, that's what it's meant to be. It's a Royal Guard after all. Not some random idiot. So we'll load someone in Sector 5. They didn't buy cloaking. They're getting packed with missiles. Mantis forgot to pack cloaking again. I was like, trust them to not do it properly. And after quite a while, we've arrived at the end of the balance changes. There's no more of them. The mini-boss is now a threat, and that I feel is what it was supposed to do. I think mini-boss is a bad tag name for a ship unlock boss that's a Royal Guard, so made it fitting. And at long last, it's all done. That's all of the changes that you will find in the exhaustive list of stuff within the balance patch found in the description. And yeah, F for all the dead Mantis indeed. To pay homage to the Mantis, I'm going to use a Mantis ship. In fact, I'm not going to use any old Mantis ship, I'm actually going to use the Mantis bomber, which is this one. We don't have... In fact, we have vanilla ships, don't we? There's the... Yeah, we can play with the 3 slot. I forgot. Never mind, let's go... Where's the Multiverse one? That one? Yeah. Mantis ship. We have Mantis. And it's time for a 4 of a kind run after... I thought this patch notes reading took a lot longer. Gosh, it was 2.5 hours. Oh, F in the chat for the amount of time that this took to do, but... Anyway. It's time for a sniper 4 of a kind, so... a fun one, if I may add. Start the scan. So this ship's normal design is to use bombs to annoy the enemy. And do epic trolling. Which appeals to some people, it does not appeal to me at all. I don't like it. Because it's really, really, really slow. You end up getting stuck using a conservative bomb on its own until you can find other things. But anyway... Oh, don't kill my rock, man. No. Not the rock. Leave the rock alone, please. So the rock is too slow to walk through this deoxed room. Not even going to try. I'm going to have to fix these breaches with Mantis of all things. Actually, you know what? I'm going to remedy my mistake before I even bother getting the weapons out. I'm going to reload the run. And I'm going to get an extra crew member instead. I forgot that it's a bunch of Mantis. Well, because the ship's obviously Mantis, isn't it? They don't fix anything. We'll avoid that peril before we even run into it. So anyway, let's remove these starting weapons. We're playing 4 of a kind with sniper. So I don't want any of this scrap. I don't want any of these weapons. Get them out of here. I want instead 4 snipers. Because I feel like this weapon has been changed an awful lot. It would be nice to actually get a look at it in action. I actually still myself don't know if I like the change. Oh, that's 500. Whoop. Let's get that going. So yeah, snipers. This ship doesn't start with power to get all of them online. We'll get them on later. So the new version of sniper, in case anyone's forgot, it is now a particle weapon. And it's designed to do crew kills. Instead of being a giant hull-busting, sniping, evil thing, it's now a bit more balanced. Sylvan's giving us gifts because I'm not playing on extreme today. I don't really feel like it after spending 2.5 hours talking about weapon balance. Perhaps spare myself some pain for the day. I'll play on a normal difficulty. Oh look, beams! I do like me some beams, some particle beam. That's no good again. But anyway, thanks for the gift, Sylvan, but we'll be leaving with both of our snipers intact. This isn't a real store, we'll leave it alone. We've got an actual store. Oh look, the Trion, that's been buffed. That would be a weapon I'd pick up on a normal run now. New Trion is kind of hype, not gonna lie. What do we got systems-wise? A mind control, that sounds interesting. I've got 3 slots, so that's definitely something I'd think would be worth picking up to aid with our crew killing misadventure. And then we'll continue ploughing onwards. It's a trap, it says. I think the only thing being trapped here is them, not me, but anyway. They've decided to try the same strategy as me. So that's what Sniper does now. It's like that... is it an AWP? Is that the correct rifle? It's a burst sniper. Mid to long range. Weapon. And there's nowhere for the enemies to hide. It takes a couple of shots and the whole ship is now breached. Which is the purpose of it. Can we help these people? No. We won't even try. Sad. Oh no, I lost a crew. Whoops. And I have less people to repair stuff on a Mantis ship. That's kind of sus. Let's keep going and hope that doesn't happen again. Right, Rebel Elite is here. He wants to ruin my day, to which I say, have a face full of mantis. Having two of these snipers is very, very overpowered. You can target oxygen with one and hit a room with the other, which makes the breaches go quicker. It's delightfully evil. Especially if you can mind control the enemy. There's no way for them to hide. They can't fix anything. By the time they wake up from their mind control, every room that they can hide in is gone. Which is delightfully evil. So what do we got? Mantis. Oh, we can visit some fellow mantis and kill them. That sounds like a mantis thing to do. Let's turn these both off. No thank you. And now we have a Suzy in a corner. That's not what I want to see. Suzy pheromones be kinda ouch. Turn that off, I'll turn that off, and given these are mantis, I'm gonna assume whatever's going on in there is not looking so hot. Not sure why I can't see inside their ship. It says that I can, but I don't think I can. Oh no, it's level 2 for that. Wait, whoops. Suzy broke it. Can I see now? Yes, they're having a terrible time. Now they're dead. All gone. So yeah, I like this as a evil, conniving, deoxing machine. There's definitely no prisoners taken when the sniper is in the room. Which is how it should be, really. But it's not just pointing at an empty room and the enemy ship magically vanishing. You will later in the run have to start building around this weapon instead of it just being a I can break a shield so I can kill the enemy ship instantly sort of deal. But anyway, I like this. Crew kills are fun. Crew killing weapons that are actually good and nice. Especially ones that I know the enemy can't use. It's far less fun getting crew killed than crew killing. It's like one of the worst ways to end a run. But I like it though. As for balance though, I don't actually know if this is good. Like, is this an improvement or is this a downgrade? Or like, have I created something satanic or is this something that's balanced? Like, removing the hull damage did seem like something that would make it fairer, but I don't know. I am on speed, so this would be a lot slower than normal game time. It's probably balanced-ish. One thing I could do with doing, though, is going into its weapon file and making sure it's a particle weapon that it shoots. Wow, this is a guard ship. What is this? I don't mean to be mean, but your weapon is, yeah, a mini beam? Really, dude? I think these people need to understand that being a guard ship, you're meant to have a real gun. This is a bit of an epic fail going on over here. Oh, I've lost a sniper. Whoops. Let's deny this mantis its ability to do anything. I guess I'm just going to have to deal with having a sniper turned off for a little minute. Shouldn't be a problem. We need one to actually perform tasks. Let's recruit this guy to come and help us fix this. Oh, you weren't meant to be helping me? That's seems like your problem, dude. The enemy has been baited. Effectively. And now we continue the sniping fast. We turn off O2, I'll take medbay off. I do need this other sniper though, so let's move this itchy mantis and fix this. This NG running around is making my sniper not so useful. And the other thing that's working against me is these room sizes. In case you didn't know how breaches work, if a room has a breach, the chance for a breach to go in the room goes down. It's my breach chance over 100%, I believe, does something. Because you need to roll the room until you find a tile that's not already breached. So the breach chance on this is like, gosh, I don't know, it's like 180% or something, it's not even 200 on most rooms. But it's still strong. Most of the time it's going to breach twice in a 2x2 room, which is your most common one. Oh, an NG, my gosh, we're playing a mantis ship, that's like perfect. It's like literally the one thing I wanted. Imagine the face on this NG though. It's stuck inside a mantis ship for ages and it's trying to run away. And the ship that rescues it is another mantis ship. Like, that must be so disappointing. Like, I don't know, man. That just seems like pain. Poor thing. Take some more shots. And with one more shot, they'll have nowhere left to hide on their ship. They can even kill each other. Lovely. You get another NG? No. Instead, a mantis will board back to his own ship and die. Rip mantis. So let's recycle some more. I don't even know what we're recycling at this point. It seems like, I don't know where we'd get all these missiles from. At least it would be coming out of nowhere. Perhaps we're recycling bathroom toilet paper or something. That must be the secret method of this recycle. So it converts random junk. I can't think of anything else you'd have on a ship. But anyway. It served its purpose. I don't actually think it's a very good augment, so get that out of here. Oh look, an amp ion. Do you have a drone control? Nice. I'll use this brand new buffed amp ion to supplement my sniper. It's all coming together. Right, let's look at other things. I've got, what, one system slot left? I'd be cloaking, so we'll continue plodding along. This amp ion is really just for later. I don't need it right now. In fact, I'm not going to need it until like Sector 7. So it's debatable if I should even have bothered buying it. But what it's going to do later on is help me bring enemy shields down to 3 so I can shoot through them. It's that little bit of support that I need. Yeah. This is what I would define as a bra moment. This weapon not doing hull damage is why I'm a bit peeved that I sold that energy drone. I forgot that I'd need it. Oh, Callie, I actually can't kill you today. As Callie is now harmless. Let's disable Callie so we can run away safely. We'll have no more of your nonsense. Get out of here, Callie. You know what, I'm just going to fill Callie with breaches. I feel like this is the most appropriate solution. I'll solve you by making you completely harmless. There'll be no more Callie running around trolling people with math questions at 3 in the morning. One more volley and we can leave. My dignity intact and Callie not so much. Oh, unlucky. More. There we go. Callie is utterly helpless. Unfortunately, I am also utterly helpless because I can't damage Callie, so we'll have to run away from that encounter as well. But Callie is dead, I think. There you go. Callie is trolled. What do we got now? Stupid mantis that want to board me? Sure. Unfriendly bugs. The NG requests support with its debugging problem. And then you realise it's a racist joke about mantis again. Because NG moment. Right, to think the NG are secretly racist robots is quite astounding. That raging fire is gonna end up being very annoying. I have a feeling we're in some substantial danger. Because that is not going away. Let's deal with the enemy problem first, then we'll deal with our problem. Just going to use the ultra vent method of turning oxygen off and letting the fires burn themselves out. I don't really have another solution for this. At least not just now. Fire go away, please. Soon. There. Fire is gone. If this encounter was dangerous, this would have been a very different problem. This fire would probably have crew killed me. Not today. We'll continue trucking on. I think we'll get ourselves both of our reloaders, so we can get these snipers going at actually quite respectable speeds. These snipers will indeed be sniping. Oh, I sold my missiles right before I traded. That's rude. True ending snipers. I don't think that works. I'd have to roll a very powerful loot drone or something for the damage required. Well, it's an interesting idea, but we'll go to the outcast sector because it's a new sector. We found a coalition. This dude's probably a rock. Oh. No, we just get free stuff. That's unexpected. So the coalition have infiltrated the outcasts, it seems. That would, in other words, mean the outcasts are sus. And we have a method of dealing damage to auto scouts, which is me happy. Let's get going onwards. There. I don't need to do that, it's just forget I did some bad micro. That's a flak. Don't hit me with flak, please. Thank you. Let's deal with the rock band now. One, two, and I think we're dead. The rock is gone. Thankfully we're not using a weapon that relies on fire, so these rockmen are not a problem. The only time this weapon becomes a problem is if I find a sector full of ghosts or something. Which is what we inevitably require this combat drone for. And I think these are strong enough for most of the games to rely without scramble. Hey, there's space in this room. Why did the mantis run away? That's rude. Anyway, I need medbots, I think is what I'm learning from this. Having to run the crew around is not efficient. And they're wasting a lot of time moving when they could be actually dealing with the problems at hand. That is... Okay, the new crystal AI is a bit rude. Just instantly farts. That's... No. Stop. Are we done here? I think. Random in the corner won't annoy me anyway. What have we got? An orchid, a shell and a slug. I would like an orchid. Who can sit in the doors or sensors even? Probably not doors, because this orchid works best when the doors are open. So would I not want it in something that's not related to doors, maybe? Seems like the idea. Thinking about the enemy weapon charge will be a fun tool to help us with cloaking later, so... Onwards! Let's continue. That's a... Oh no, it's a flak charger. Stop manning that and hopefully we won't die. That's very scary. I want that gone. Mega gone. Flak charger is probably the scariest enemy weapon to find this early on. I don't like running into a weapon that does 3 damage and then sprinkles like a hose after breaking your shields. It's not a fun way to go. Right, where's my drone recovery arm? I want to start getting these drones out. Like CCLG, they're gonna lock that room down, so we need people in there. And I need that teleporter and med thing there. I don't like crystals boarding in actual numbers, because if they lock someone in a room with them, it's very dangerous. Especially without medbots anyway. Because we're too early on to import medbots. Anyway, let's get rid of all these. These crystals vent very slowly, which is a bit of a shame. But anyway, crystal's gone. Rip crystal. Oh, crap. You're making me dive. I did a boopsie. I didn't know what event did. I'll know that for next time. Please don't blow me up for that, though. That is a bit of a hassle. This weapon setup. Do I shoot first? No. Kinda. Praise be that sniper can't miss. I would have been in actual trouble. I don't think there's any point fighting this for one fuel, it'll take far too long. Yeah. That was a bit awkward. I should have known better. I wasted like 3 jumps there for that as well. Well, at least the power's useful. I need that for my drone later. Oh my, that's the newly buffed fire beam drone. I don't like the look of that. Let's turn that off, please. Oh, and even better, we'll turn the method of it damaging me off. And there's this. Shoots down missiles, don't care. Let's just take that off as well. Oh, you turned the one that was aimed at hacking off. That's... Did it hit... It didn't hit shields, so this can't damage me unless that burns out up there. Guess that's gone. Fire it, please. Drone off, and now I can break the ship. And I'll put one last on this in case it decides to run. So yeah, Auto Scout has been dismantled. I heard noises. What? Does it try using a boarding drone? I'm confused. Anyway. Let's fix this breach as well. What's our next sector looking like? You know what, though? A shipyard isn't too bad. I've kind of just got the perfect weapon loadout to deal with those. Auto Scouts hate breaches, and I have 6 breaches per volley. I think we take advantage of this. Oh, no, I think we just die. That's a combat 2. A combat 2 this early in the run is not balanced. That's a big rip. have to deal with getting peppered until it dies. Oh, it's guard better drop something worth whatever the scrap cost is for that, because that was not fun. Anyway, that fire I can vent with doors. Well, this ship's venting layout is really awful for a mantis ship as well. This is really unusual. Anyway, it's all vented now. We can return to normality. And we'll break that shield. And now we can begin pulling it apart. It will drop an ASB, but the drone should have enough DPS to kill it before it matters. I don't imagine that it's going to fire before it does 6 damage. That's not... We might cut it close. No, fine. Anyway, gone. Auto Scout has been deleted. Mantis store. Another Mantis store, actually. Oh, they're offering me a Seppi. That, if I had more money, I'd take that, but we do not. We need this drone recovery arm because we're going to be using combat drones pretty much every encounter now. Oh, look, a crystal lockdown bomb. How tasty. That is actually kind of good now. As is 2 shields. So yeah, 2 shields. I kind of need more power. I'm desperately running out, but I could depower a sniper. It's a bit of a last-ditch effort to do something. Got my problems. Tell you what, I don't have a defense drone on these slots. That's gonna have to change, I think, before I get myself into some trouble. And one more volley and we can start pulling it apart. Good riddance, auto scouts. Yeah, this sector is remarkably simple. We're not going to run into any ships with annoying boarding crews or itchy gimmicks. It's all auto scouts here. And I actually quite like auto scouts, in that they're not annoying. We'll leave the station alone because I don't want delay. Forwards. Bait? Ah, we did find some people that are not auto scouts. You're not an auto scout. What are you doing here? This sector is plagued. It's, you need to leave. Right, refugee ship gives you some money and keep going upwards. More autos? Yep. It's trying to run away. Okay, so that changes my priority slightly. I will need to hit its piloting. That is really thick cloaking. Gosh. Thankfully we have the ultimate anti-running away drone moment in the form of snipers. It's going nowhere, and it's now dead. Goodbye, Auto Scout. You will not be missed. At all. Ever. Oh, that is a enormous... I'm sorry, what? 3 shields? Jesus, that is a lot. It's almost enough to make me use my amp ion. And it has a drone booster. Okay, this is very scary for this early on. Oh, and I didn't turn it off, so they're gonna break my engine, I guess, because I can't do anything about that. Yeah, no, that's kind of scary. Level 2. I think they can't fix this stuff now. Looking at what they're doing. They can't enter these deoxed rooms without dying, so... We have 1 against the engineers and their overpowered giga boarding vessel. What is this? It's a... This thing looks like a boss, if I'm being entirely honest. Hey, this is a double reward. Right, so what upgrades can I get that will make me safer? Power. There and there, and we'll have to start saving up for the cloaking and some repairs. Don't want to spend too much on repairs because scrap is tight now, but... Anyway. We have ourselves trouble all Ransour ship. It's not really dangerous. This auto scout I'd give a solid 3 out of 10 in terms of weapons. It seems to have a bit of the confused beam loadout going on. The novice loadout. It wants to run away, don't care. Goodbye. No. Right, onwards, distress. What are they trying to... Oh, this is an ASB. That is quite the pickle we are in. Maybe drone booster boarding. This is evil. Oh, and they've got a leech. I'm not a fan of any of this. Like, what I'm seeing is just not so fair. Because I'm going to probably get hit by an ASB that was unavoidable. So I'm down to 2 hull. I can't repair this because I have to leave. Yeah, I'm not a fan of this. I believe this encounter was in the game last version, but I don't care, it kind of needs to go. Oh no. That's death. That right there is probably the end of the run. I don't think I can wait. Good lord, please. Absolute clutch. Can we survive the deox though? I'm gonna give that a no because they haven't got a teleporter. So I need the... Actually, I have an orchid, hold on. Orchid is gonna save me. Once that hack stops. Why? Why do you do this to me? Only wanted to open the regular doors, but okay. Let's let the orchid save us. In Orchid we trust. It's gonna let us walk up to this. No. Right, if we get another ship combat, the run is over. I don't imagine it takes a genius to work that out. I don't really have any hull to spare for even a Leto right now is actually GG. And I don't have cloaks, so I don't know, it's not in my hands. Will the next jump be empty, or are we going back to the hangar? That is the question. How many jumps have we got left? 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Not even a store to save me. It's an auto ship. I'm gonna instead do a repair. NG method? Sure. That'll do. That's dangerous. I don't like the look of this at all. This thing locking down for a siren seems evil. Anyway, let's continue onwards. These goofy looking sirens are not going to stop me. Let's get out of here. Shoo. We got ourselves a rebel that was stuck in the cargo hold. I can man my doors. Lovely. One more jump away out of this auto scout hell. Oh, this is the... This is worth an awful lot of scrap. It's worth the risk. It was... Oh, I'm dead. Well then, that was not worth the risk, was it? Drone. Doesn't matter. It's too far gone. I think... Yeah, I've lost piloting, we're dead. No! Rest in peace, Mantis ship. As soon as I saw the drones, I knew I was finished. I wasn't expecting level 3 combat drones in Sector 4, if I'm being quite honest. This ship was a little bit over the top. But anyway, that's the way it goes. Sniper. It's very clear that Sniper is a good weapon now. I'm not sure if everyone will enjoy the change or not, but I feel like I've done a good job balancing the weapon. But I can't balance around this bullshit though. I will need to look at how enemies generate, because like, things like this are not... It's very obvious, this is very wrong. A Combat 2 and a Combat 1 spawning in Sector 4, I mean, it would have killed me at probably full hull. If I had a normal weapon set up, this would have just ended the run. Anything, really. Cloaking or not. So... Next port of call for the third version of rebalance. Make those enemies fair. Fix this economy bullshit as well. Like, I couldn't repair at any of the stores we were at because they're all 5 repair cost. But that wasn't helping either. So, I don't know. Lots of things to go. We're halfway there. Next update will probably be in 2 weeks or 3 weeks time. I'll have the stuff sorted. The enemy generation scrap. I think I'll do crew last, because the crew situation is only a couple of outliers like cultists, so I'll get those at the end. But for now, this is all I've got. Well, see you all hopefully tomorrow, or the day after even. Depends on if I'll have any time on the Sunday. Well, see ya, and thanks for watching.